Hey everyone, Joe Menza here. Thanks for joining me for another painting video. Now this one here, I'm going to try to do a very easy sky for you. I've wet the paper down. Now I'm kind of blending that in. Now I've taken a little white and added this. I got a little white on my board. That's why you see me swiping it up there on the cardboard. So it's just a little bit of just China white. And I've mixed that in with the water. And now I'm going in with some heavy Prussian blue. Just some random shapes. I'm not too worried about making too much of a pattern here. I'm going to leave some openings for sky, but I'm going in heavy because I'm going to blend this, and there's the white underneath. Okay, so I'm going to take a clean brush, soft brush, and I'm lightly blending over the top of this. And you'll see it creates almost a blurred look to it for the sky. Just blending it in, trying not to press it too hard and cover up those light spots. That's why I left some pretty big holes there. And the best thing to do is to do that lightly. And this is just a generic brush I bought online, a couple of bucks, soft. Don't really use it for painting, but I like the softness of it. It's not a bad idea to have a couple of these for blending if you're going to try this. I'm just grabbing a little more blue. I figure I'm going to have some water over here somewhere. And once I figure I got the sky in a place where I'm happy with it, I will do a quick dry, which will be edited out so you don't have to sit through that, but for a couple of minutes. And now we're going to come in. This is the medium or small Ron Ranson brush. Now, these brushes are very close in size, medium, small. Get the small if you're working out of sketchbooks, something 9 by 12 or 8 by 10, and you want to use the Ron Ranson brush, then get the small. So this is a burnt umber. Just putting in the shape here. I'm going to do some scraping, so you put it on heavy enough that you can scrape it and it'll create a nice effect. And I'm going to give it a little spray just to make sure it stays wet enough for me. Okay, I'm going to take my plastic card. Now, you can cut these in half, but I recommend if your card is not smooth enough, you could take a little bit of a nail file or sandpaper or something and make it smooth, because if it has any sort of a jagged edge, it'll make, patterns that you don't want. And if you get those little loyalty cards like from the gas station or some boutique type stores, they give you the card, it's got little rounded edges. I really like those. I scrape that in, and what's nice is you get a little bit of that blue showing through, which I don't mind at all. And I'm just using the brush to cover a little bit of that, just to cover it up a little bit. Okay, just shaping that out a little bit underneath. And that quickly we have a very realistic looking little mountain or hill, depending on where you are. And I'm just giving this a little shot with some alcohol I have in a bottle. And it'll create some little texture-y effects that I like. And I'm just going to lighten that bottom base up a little bit. Just want that to look a little misty at the bottom. So I rubbed out a little, I got a little bit of white residue on my board at the top of my paper. And I'm just re-scraping a little bit. As long as it's wet, you can keep going back to it. Someone in our group was mentioning that they were questioning about, using better tools. They understand that better tools won't make you a better artist. But one thing to keep in mind, if you can get certain items like a nice easel or a nice board to paint on, is what makes you comfortable and feel good about what you're doing, that can help you in your overall confidence level. What I'm doing is I decided I'd like another little layer of mountains. So just to show you, you don't have to necessarily go from front to back. I'm taking a little purple color here. I think this is that dioxazine purple. Never really know how to say that properly. But just a little purple behind. Not really sure if that's going to work or not. But just dab a little bit of that drip out of there. Don't worry too much about drips and things. That adds to the overall character of the piece. So I'm just going to shape this a little bit with some blue on there. Just get a little more to the blue side. Didn't want that quite so purple with the blue sky. See, if you do get a little drip, you can just kind of dab it off with a tissue. And dabbing at the mountain so you can create little textures. If you lightly dab, you can create neat little effects. Again, just cleaning that up a little bit. Just a light touch here. So now that I got that mountain in the back there, the back layer where I want it, I'll give it a little scrape just to add a little texture. And it'll take away from some of that purple effect as well. And the idea is you want that to look like it's further back. And I'll give it a little spray again. And then I'll come in with a little darker, little brown mixed with a little either indigo or Payne's gray. Always good to take a step back. Go back a few feet, look at your painting, because when you're looking at it up close, every little detail is magnified. Now I'm coming back in with this Prussian blue, and these are just quick strokes, light touch. Just seeing what I can do with maybe some water effects. I added just a little bit of purple into that just to see what would happen. And give it a little spray so it kind of runs together, blends together a little bit. And I'm just going to blend that a little bit. I probably could have left that. It probably looked better. It's okay. Always tell yourself it is what it is. It's very difficult to say when to leave well enough alone. It's one of the tougher things in painting. So I'm taking my blending brush, my soft brush, just kind of blending that. In my mind, I had the idea I wanted it to look a little more misty at the base. So I'm kind of stuck with that thought in my head. So I just cleared out a little more. If I wanted a little more white, I can wipe out a little bit if it's still wet. I think what I'm going to do, I'm taking a little more of that white that's on my board, kind of blending that in there. It's funny, as I watch these back, it's like, I don't know. I was fine the way it was. Again, questioning what you're doing. That's why it's really good to record yourself. If you have no intention of showing anyone the video ever, and you have space on like an iPad or a phone or something, record yourself painting. It's like recording your golf swing to improve. And you can watch it back. Sometimes you might be like, how did I do that? And you have a video record of it, you know. And you might be surprised by what you see. Yeah, I'm just giving it all a little spray with some yellow ochre. I have my yellow ochre spray. If you've never watched my video, I have 3 or 4 different colors, which are little spray bottles, and I fill them about halfway with water and put about an inch or so of paint in there and then shake it. And I can use that to add color without disturbing too much. Now I'm going to do a little bit of a land in the forefront here. A little bit of maybe beach or something. Not really sure. I have to see how it fits in. And again, I'm just blending that so it looks kind of thematic with the rest of the painting. Okay, so let's do some foliage at the bottom. Pick up some green and some yellow. Make like a nice green down here and kind of lay the groundwork, and then add a little maybe indigo. Kind of lean toward the indigo over Payne's Gray. Payne's Gray is a little dark. I've kind of been using Payne's Gray very seldom in my paintings anymore. And we're going to go ahead with some, this is gamboge. I believe it's gamboge. You can use like those warmer yellows, gamboge, yellow ochre. Yellow ochre is a little more opaque. And you can use that, or you can use the cadmium hue. So a little stronger using the bristles of the brush. paint more as what they call neat, which is almost straight out of the tube, although there is moisture on the brush anyway. So let's put in a nice tree here on this left side. Using that brown, just a nice kind of, not necessarily 100% straight tree. Again, taking that card and doing a little scrape to create some bark and some light on the tree. Instant tree bark, instant texture. And then again, you can always go back in and touch it up with the brush. Now, after I said I didn't really paint with this brush, I happened to pick it up. And I am using it. But just because I just grabbed it, not necessarily intent. So I'm going to take the rigger brush now and just create some limbs. Just create like a main limb and then create limbs off of that. It's really the easiest way to do it. And then go smaller and smaller as you make some, branches off branches. And then it's up to you. You can put leaves on the tree or you can leave it without leaves. Some people like it. Again, just touching up that scraping. Just rubbing it with my finger to get a little dark shade, since that paint is so wet. Okay, so I've got some yellows here and greens, and I'm just going to bash those in to create some leaves. It probably would have been better left without leaves. I just happen to like leaves on trees. And it gives me a chance to show you. Really like to get it really into the bristles and then press those bristles against the paper. So now again, I'm going to take this brush and put a little bit of green interspersed here with the yellow. Just feels like too much yellow, although it was probably fine. If you're an armchair painter and you're watching somebody paint, you're like, no, don't, don't do that. Oh, but then in the end, it's funny because then you say, well, you know what, it is pretty good anyway. So you know, one of the things I had about watching Bob Ross back in the 90s was I'd watch and I'd say, oh, he's going to mess this up. But then it never would get messed up. It'd be just fine, you know. So I put some rocks at the base of this tree. And I'll come in with some brighter yellow in this tree. Just some highlight colors. So I'm getting a little white up here. I'm going to come back in this water, try to give this a little bit of white or something. Again, another situation where it's probably fine. And I'm going to give that a little spray and blend that in. And then a little yellow sprayed over the top. So the white's not so stark looking. And give that a blend and see how that looks. A little more yellow for just to give it a little light. That's the spray bottle with the yellow ochre in it. So I'm always sitting in my chair and I'm looking at the painting as I'm going. It's like, I want to change. This is not, it's not looking this or that. And I think a lot of times if you stopped at a certain point and then you looked at your painting the next day, you'd say, man, it looked pretty good. You really got to know when to say when. Again, a little more yellow out of the spray bottle. Now I'm going to anchor these rocks down with a little bit of indigo. Indigo is the color. Now, your mileage may vary on brand. Some lean more toward blue and some lean more toward purple. I like the ones that lean toward a deeper purple, personally. I'm just going to darken the shadow on this side of the tree. Probably should leave well enough alone, but I really want a little more contrast there. And I can always scrape it again. Again, just touching up some of these leaves. Sometimes as you're painting, it dries back. You'll see some of that paint dripped into that foliage, which I do kind of like, actually. Creates a very unique effect. So now I'm sort of in that end touch-up stage where I look around at the painting and I say, if I add a little dark here, a little light here, can I accent anything that will make something pop a little better? And, a little bit of green at the top of this foliage maybe, just to give it a little highlight color. Anything I can do to, dress it up, final dressing stages. And then I'll put a mat on it and that'll help me assess. So what I'm doing is I'm taking the rigger brush and I'm going to put some sticks and things in here. Now, you could do straight sticks like that, but if you practice at it and you kind of, like you're licking the paper with the brush, you'll create these little dots and it'll create like little willow things just by flicking the brush. And it's something you can practice on a separate piece of paper on. And it can create these nice little willow sticks coming out of the ground. And you don't have to sit there and paint all the dots. You can, it doesn't work for you. I'm taking my Micron pen. It's a 0.5 millimeter pen. I like to just draw the birds in at that point. So let's get a look at this with a mat on it. I think that's really all I can do. And there it is with the mat, and that really frames it out very nicely. I think I'm fairly happy with this one. Got an intense sky, got nice water effects, and that foreground looks pretty good. And anything else, I just maybe some little minor things. Maybe just a little bit of white at the base of this mountain here, just define it a little bit. It's where you really got to be careful here. You don't want to touch too much, Sometimes you're better off just saying, I'll come back in an hour or something, But a lot of the stuff I do is wet and wet, so it needs to be done, in a certain period of time. So just a little dry brushing. It looks like waves. This is the moment when you view and you say, oh, you're on pins and needles. It looks good. Leave it. Please stop. Don't do any more. Just leave it. You'll ask yourself that. Why didn't I stop? Why didn't I leave that alone? Why did I have to go in and do that? I don't know. I don't know the psychology of it, but we all struggle with it. We all struggle with it. So I think I'll go in and sign it. One way to get yourself to stop is to sign the painting. It might not stop you entirely, but it's to sign your painting, and it gives you that essence of, I'm done. That's it. I'm not doing any more. I'm stopping here. And with that, we're going to stop the video here as I spray some more yellow down the middle. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great week.